to which APICS certification is right for me, the first in a series about the APICS certification programs. Today I would like to introduce Bob Collins, APICS Senior Director of Professional Development.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everyone. As Senior Director of Professional Development, I have responsibility for our courseware and instructor development program. I have 25 years experience as a supply chain professional and was an APICS volunteer and instructor for many years before joining the APICS staff 10 years ago. I'm very happy to introduce Lisa Sahlstrom and Corey Heinen, who will be joining me in the webinar today. Lisa is our Senior Director of Certification. She has 13 years of Certification Association leadership experience, 8 years of it here at APICS. As Senior Director of Certification, Lisa is here to discuss how the APICS certification process works. Corey is Director of Product Development with over 20 years of training and development product management experience. She acts as the CSCP Learning System Product Manager and has led our development efforts on the new CLTD learning system. So welcome, Lisa and Corey.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
So today we'll look at the 3 APICS certifications, CPIM, CSCP, and CLTD. We'll talk about the differences between them and why you might want to consider one of them over another.
So Bob, why should people come to APICS for supply chain education and certifications?
Well, Lisa, APICS is the leading professional association for supply chain and operations management and the premier provider of research, education, and certification programs that elevate supply chain excellence, innovation, and resilience. APICS offers membership, networking, research, publications, education, and certification.
Yes, and APICS has a global footprint with 47,000 members in over 100 countries, with hundreds of partners around the world and over 2,000 active volunteers. In addition, APICS offers the 2 most recognized certifications in the supply chain and operations management profession, the CPIM and the CSCP, and is now offering our latest certification, CLTD. And we are well recognized among global supply chain professionals. Several years ago, the supply chain management world published a report listing the top universities and associations offering supply chain education. The lists were based on a survey to hundreds of professionals to name their top 3 brands as markers of talent. APICS took the association category by a mile, while the Supply Chain Council came second. Since then, APICS merged with the Supply Chain Council, who brought you the Supply Chain Operations Reference Model, also known as the SCOR model. Together, we are the most recognized association for supply chain certification. So we've talked about why APICS. So Bob, can you now tell us about why supply chain?
Well, Lisa, supply chain is increasingly becoming a strategic directive for companies. Corporations are competing on their supply chains, so the supply chain function can make or break a business. More importantly for our listeners, the Georgia Center of Innovation for Logistics predicted that the demand for supply chain professionals will outstrip the supply in the U.S. at a rate of 200,000 jobs annually, at least through 2018. This is the perfect time to be in supply chain. And APICS can validate your ability to apply supply chain principles through one of our certifications.
You'll also note that in the Gartner's 2016 Chief Supply Chain Officer Survey, the top priority investments that provide companies with the most value are quality of product supply, sales and operations planning, and supply chain analytics, which are all major topics covered in APICS certifications.
And APICS has, over the last 60 years, established the standard terminology in operations management, supply chain management, and now in logistics, transportation, and distribution. Standard terminology means clear communications, which means better solutions for our companies. So Lisa, we've covered why APICS and why supply chain. Let's talk briefly about the process APICS uses to create certifications, including the exams and the learning systems.
Great, I'd love to do that. So certifications are achieved by passing a proctored exam that indicates competency of a body of knowledge as measured against a defensible set of standards. Those standards are determined through a certification industry best practice process called a job task analysis, or JTA. The JTA is a survey about the tasks performed by thousands of professionals around the world, how important those tasks are, and how often they are performed. The results of the survey are reviewed by a PhD psychometrician who is a specialist in behavioral testing, along with a committee of subject matter experts. The results of the research is an outline of the body of knowledge covered by the certification program, which is detailed in the Exam Content Manual, or ECM. The ECM also contains a list of industry references, usually textbooks, that the exam committee used to validate the contents of the outline. Those textbooks are also used to create exam questions and the associated APICS courseware. Every exam item is tied to a specific part of the outline in the ECM and comes from a specific recommended reference. Certification exam questions or items go through a rigorous testing process to ensure that the questions are relevant and neither too difficult or too easy. This is called psychometric validation. New items are added to the exam as non-scored questions or pretest questions to ensure the exam is performing according to acceptable statistics. Candidates will not know which questions are scored or unscored to ensure the appropriate collection of statistics, so candidates should answer all exam questions as though they are scored. You will notice the gray arrow from the ECM to the course and coursework committee. So I'd like to ask now Corey to tell us what happens after that.
Sure, Lisa, I'm happy to answer that. So the courseware project manager works with a courseware subcommittee to take the exam content outline and all of the references from the ECM to create the courseware, which we call the learning system. The committee is comprised of experienced subject matter experts that work with a team of instructional designers to develop those materials. Now, the goal of the learning system is to make learning easier and more effective. The team consolidates the key information found in the core references into one easy-to-use tool to best prepare candidates for the exam. The learning system includes reading materials, interactive examples and case studies to reinforce concepts, and hundreds of practice questions to get candidates ready to sit for the exam.
So it's important to note that the courseware committee may not see the exam questions, and the exam committee does not review the courseware. Now that may seem counterintuitive, but remember, the purpose of certification is to validate that the candidate meets a minimum set of requirements, not that the candidate demonstrate knowledge of the courseware. This process is what makes APICS certifications high-stakes certifications. A high-stakes certification is one where some people's jobs depend on whether or not they have that certification. Some global companies require one of the APICS certifications for specific jobs within their companies. No certification, no job. So organizations with employees who have earned an APICS certification can anticipate better alignment of their global supply chain with their business objectives, better productivity, collaboration, and innovation. Note that according to the PwC in their Global Supply Chain Survey, companies can expect to achieve 70% higher performance when they focus on supply chain excellence. Employees who have an APICS certification have effectively demonstrated mastery of the body of knowledge covered by the certification, and they are often more productive and successful in the workplace. This adds to their employer's bottom line, which adds to the stability of the company and their jobs, as well as opportunities for higher level positions and salary increases.
APICS world-renowned certification programs provide operations management, supply chain, and logistics professionals with relevant, essential education that equips them for today's fast-changing marketplace. Our three flagship certifications are CPIM, CSCP, and CLTD. We will be discussing each of these in more detail. So Bob, how do supply chain professionals choose between these three certifications to determine which best suits their needs?
That's a great question, Lisa, and actually one that I'm asked all the time. After all, our certifications are not only the most recognized, they're the most well recognized in the supply chain and operations management profession. So when I'm asked which certification is right for me, I actually have a pretty simple answer for that. I start by asking where the certification candidate is focused or would like to be focused in their career over the next 5 years. Over the next 5 years, if you think you will have an internal focus that is focused within the four walls of your company, and responsibilities might include improving forecasting, scheduling, and inventory management, all these things point to the CPIM. The CPIM demonstrates the ability to understand and evaluate production and inventory activities within a company's operations. The first exam was offered in the mid-70s, and over 105,000 professionals worldwide have earned the CPIM. The CPIM currently requires passing 5 exams. Now, if your focus is external, outside the four walls of your company, working with vendors, customers, that flow of information, product, and money that goes throughout your end-to-end supply chain, these things point to the CSCP. The APICS CSCP validates mastery of end-to-end supply chain. Launched in 2006, the CSCP designation has been earned by more than 21,000 professionals worldwide and is the standard in global supply chain education. CLTD also has a bit of an outside focus, but more specifically in the deliver or return functions in your company. The CLTD validates mastery of day-to-day functions of logistics, distribution, and transportation, and is our newest certification and came out of our merger with the American Society of Transportation and Logistics, or ASTL. In the first 6 months since its launch, over 700 professionals worldwide have earned the CLTD. So start with your end in mind and think about where you want to be in 5 years and which certification will help you get there. Lisa, would you expand on how the different professionals fit into one of these 3 APICS certifications?
Certainly, Bob. So at the center of a supply chain success are people, and certified professionals are equipped to make more substantial contributions to their organization than non-certified professionals. In this diagram, you can see some of the job titles as they relate to the 5 primary management processes that describe all business activities associated with satisfying customer demand. That be plan, source, make, deliver, and return. These are also the high-level processes referenced in the Supply Chain Operations Reference Model, or SCOR framework. For example, in the far left box, master schedulers and demand managers, for example, generally perform planning processes. The CPIM certification provides in-depth coverage of the plan and make processes, while CSCP covers the end-to-end supply chain from suppliers to customers. And now with the CLTD certification, APICS is expanding its reach in the delivery and return processes. So Bob, let's dive a little deeper into CPIM.
That's good. Let's do that. So the CPIM certification can help you increase your functional knowledge of production and inventory management, maximize return on investment on the systems and technologies your organization has invested in, help you master the tools you need to effectively improve internal operations, gain knowledge to apply the principles of ERP software to cover various critical functions within your organization, and to create consistency and foster collaboration through best practices, common terminology, and corporate-wide communication. Currently, the CPIM requires passing five exams and has no prerequisites. There is also a 5-year maintenance program.
And based on the demographics of individuals pursuing CPIM, these are the top 10 job titles of CPIM certification holders. We'll take a moment here.
Many of our candidates take a certification prep class from one of our hundreds of partners around the world. The benefits of the classes include providing structure to help the candidate organize his or her studies as they prepare for the exam. A classroom provides guidance from an experienced instructor. Most of our instructors are also or have been practitioners working in the profession for many years before becoming an APICS instructor. Our partners only used APICS recognized instructors to teach their classes. These instructors have gone through a rigorous instructor development program. The instructor is available to answer questions, explain concepts, and so on, using the APICS created courseware. And third, discussions with other students can help you gain a better understanding of topics that might be new to you, or to help you understand other points of view. If you can't attend a local class but want the structure and instructor guidance of a partner class, Fox Valley Technical College offers CPIM courses online. I should mention, although we haven't gotten there yet, they also offer CLTD and CSCP courses. These courses are asynchronous, which means that you can study and work on your assignments whenever you like. The instructor will review your work, give you assignments, ask questions, and oversee your process. There are other options for those who cannot attend a partner class. In 2016, APICS released a couple of new enhanced self-paced, self-study products in exam preparation. The APICS CPIM Self-Study Kit includes a printed study guide written with an easy-to-understand conversational format. This is the former study notes, enhanced with a copy of the appropriate ECM and access to the online exam simulator. The APICS Online, powered by Accenture product, was created by Accenture and APICS 10 years ago to cover the CPIM body of knowledge in a conventional online self-paced format. Each course contains a number of short pre-recorded presentations, quizzes, and activities that will cover the content for that module's body of knowledge. The new enhanced product also includes an electronic copy of the ECM and access to that APICS exam simulator. So Lisa, why don't you tell our listeners about the exam simulator?
Well, the CPIM exam simulator was developed by the same subject matter experts involved in developing the actual certification exam questions. There are 300 questions available for each module, and they are presented in a variety of formats. For example, a self-paced practice exam, a timed exam, and a final exam that provides a variety of testing experiences very close to the actual exam in terms of content being tested, number of questions, and amount of time available to complete. A pass-fail grade is immediately provided upon completion of the final exam. Candidates also have the ability to view the rationale and content areas for all questions in the self-paced and timed exam. They can flag questions for review and can save exam history to track learning progress. In addition to being bundled with the self-study kits and the online courses, the APICS CPIM exam simulator can also be purchased by itself and is a great addition to the instructor-led classes.
So Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about the CPIM exams?
Sounds good. So the CPIM exams are offered at Pearson VUE test centers worldwide. Candidates will receive their score immediately at the test center after completing the exam. Individuals have the best chance of achieving their goal to become certified when people plan their exam schedule and actually schedule their exams with Pearson VUE. This actually puts a stake in the ground and a physical goal to work towards. Currently, achieving the CPIM certification requires a passing of 5 exams. However, a new 2-part configuration will be launched in 2018. For more information, please visit the APICS website at the URL indicated here.
So this has been very big news for APICS members and candidates about CPIM moving to a 2-part or 2-exam certification from the current 5-exam certification. However, if you start your CPIM exam preparation journey now, you can be assured that you will have time that you need for the 5 exams. Or you can finish using the new path. You can even take the current Basics of Supply Chain Management exam and then take the CPIM Part 2 exam in order to earn your certification. The Basics of Supply Chain exams will be available through the first week of 2018, although the current materials will stop being sold when the new learning systems are released for the new Part 1 and Part 2 exams, probably in late August, early September of this year. The other 4 exams will be available through the end of 2018, 12/31/2018. Again, the current prep materials will be available through the first half of 2018 in order to prepare for those exams. I encourage you to check out the pre-recorded presentations on the new CPIM reconfiguration site at the URL listed on this slide.
So now let's turn our attention to the Certified Supply Chain Professional Certification, or CSCP.
So the CSCP certification covers the end-to-end supply chain, including globalization, IT enablement, logistics, service industry, and many more topics. The CSCP certification will help you maximize your organization's ERP investments, effectively manage global end-to-end supply chain activities, understand how to increase customer satisfaction, and increase your professional value and secure your future in this profession. The CSCP has only 1 exam, and there are eligibility requirements that include a minimum of 3 years work experience in the supply chain field, or a bachelor degree or international equivalent, or CPIM or another supply chain certification. There is a 5-year certification maintenance required for this certification, just like CPIM.
And based on the demographics of individuals pursuing CSCP, these are the top 10 job titles of CSCP certification holders. We'll pause a minute for your review here. So Corey, can you tell us about the exam preparation materials?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So as we previously mentioned, the Courseware Committee develops a comprehensive study tool to help candidates prepare for the CSCP exam, which we call the Learning System. The CSCP Learning System is comprised of 3 modules, covering all of the topics that are identified in the ECM. So along with the reading materials, which are provided in both print and electronic format, users are provided access to a web-based reinforcement materials. And these include interactive case studies and learning activities. There's online flashcards and practice tests that contain over 1,200 practice questions. The CSCP learning system offers self-directed and instructor-led formats to meet the needs of today's busy supply chain professionals. And over 90% of users, this is very important, 90% would recommend it as the best choice for their exam preparation. So, Lisa, what can you tell us about the exam for CSCP?
Well, beginning March 4th, CSCP exams will be delivered on demand worldwide at Pearson VUE test centers. Individuals immediately receive their score at the test center after completing the exam and will know if they passed or failed. The exam is one 3.5-hour, 150-question test. I suggest scheduling the exam when you begin your training and learning system instruction to ensure a higher level of success in meeting your personal certification objectives. In general, we have found that candidates who test within 3 months of completing their instruction have a much higher success rate in passing the exam. So finally, let's turn our attention to CLTD.
Yes, the CLTD, as we mentioned before, has a deliver and return focus and will help you gain recognition in the field as a logistics expert, expand your outlook and bring new ideas to your workplace, positively impact your organization's bottom line, and demonstrate your long-term commitment to your profession and demonstrate mastery of logistics, transportation, and distribution knowledge and skills. The CLTD has only one exam, and there are eligibility requirements that include a minimum of 3 years work experience in the supply chain, or a bachelor's degree or international equivalent, or CPIM, CSCP, or another supply chain certification. Again, there is a 5-year certification maintenance requirement for this certification, just like CPIM and CSCP.
And based on the demographics of individuals pursuing CLTD, these are the top 10 job titles of CLTD certification holders as well. So Corey, could you tell us a little bit more about how people should prepare for the CLTD exam?
Sure. Well, the CLTD learning system follows a similar format to the CSCP learning system. So you're going to see a lot of consistencies in the components that make up the prep courseware. For CLTD, the reading materials cover all 8 diagnostic areas within the ECM. The 8 modules are included in 4 books, which total over 900 pages of content. Each of the learning modules is also available in print and e-reader format. As well, there are interactive web-based study tools, which are accessible from your computer or your mobile device, and they include a smart study tool that's really just a customized study plan, flashcards, and practice tests. And those practice tests are going to allow you to check your understanding and retention of the materials within the modules. And finally, I just wanted to call this out. Learning system purchasers also receive a complimentary copy of the exam content manual for reference. So those are included within your CLTD learning system. So with that, Lisa, why don't you tell us about the CLTD exam?
Well, CLTD exams are delivered on demand worldwide, again at Pearson VUE test centers. Individuals immediately receive their score at the test center after completing the exam and will know if they passed or failed. The exam is one 3.5-hour, 150-question test. And as previously, I encourage candidates to test within 3 months of completing their instruction. Corey, what learning options do candidates have when preparing for any of these exams?
Well, we've mentioned this a little earlier, but it bears repeating. So the APICS certification learning systems are designed to be used in a variety of different ways. So you can choose the delivery format that best matches your learning style and your budget. The learning systems are designed for those who wish to self-study. However, if you do prepare to study with others, there are many APICS partners that offer instructor-led courses and study groups using the learning system materials. This is a great option that provides additional benefit of expert instruction, the opportunity for discussion with peers as you review the materials, and really just extra guidance as you need. You can check your local chapter or partner in your area to see where there are available courses. For organizations who want to offer more than self-study to their employees, you'll want to take advantage of volume discounts. You can receive guidance from your corporate development group on how to organize an in-house class.
And also on the APICS website, there is a tool that can help potential candidates navigate through the 3 types of certifications and a SCOR-P and the various ways they might prefer to learn the material via a class, self-study, or online. If you select Credentials and Education drop-down box on apics.org, you'll see which program is right for me on the left-hand side of your screen. That link will take you to these pages. And now we have time for some questions. Remember, submit your questions by selecting the Question tab on the toolbar on the right side of your screen. Enter your question and click Send. We'll take as many questions as we can during the remainder of this webinar, but we will capture all of your questions and answer them in a Q&A document that will be available with the recording of this webinar. Everyone who is registered, whether they were able to attend or not, will get an email with this link. So let's take a look at our questions.
So I did see one question that I can take right away, Bob, and that was a question on what I meant by on-demand testing.
Oh, yes. Explain that.
So on-demand, so as opposed to a test date where everyone gathers on one particular date to take an exam, or a window of time where the exam is available and people need to take the test during, let's say, 4 or 6 weeks out of the year. What is meant by on-demand testing is that the exam is available to take 365 days of the year. Now, it's based on also availability at your local test center, but it actually presents a more flexible way for individuals to schedule their exam due to personal situations that occur.
All right, good. So we do have a number of questions in regarding to cost, and there's some information we can certainly share, but some of that cost information has some dependencies. For one thing, are you a plus APICS member, or are you a core member or not a member at all? There is a significant discount for APICS Plus members, and I'll give you that information. The other information that we wouldn't have is if you chose to take a class. Because APICS does not actually offer the classes, we have no control over those prices, although many of our partners do understand their local market and do price classes accordingly. So just a couple of numbers, and then we'll give you more information in the Q&A document after this. But the CPIM self-study kit for a professional member is about $145. The CSCP learning system for professional members is $895, and the CSCP learning system for professional members are $995. So that gives you some idea of what we're looking at. But when you take a look at the value of the product and what it'll do for your career, you know, I mentioned before that I was a practitioner and a consultant in supply chain for 25 years. I earned my CPIM back in '92, the CFPIM in '98, which is Certified Fellow, and I did that through a lot of teaching a lot of these classes. And then my CSCP in 2006. And I can tell you from my own experience that these certifications made a big difference in my career, which is one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be working here with our instructors and with the subcommittees that are helping create this courseware.
So I saw another question come up that maybe Corey can answer, and that's around CLTD and about how long would it take an individual to go through the CLTD content and prepare for the exam. And then there's a follow-up question on how long the individual should take before testing, and I can address that.
Sure. Well, with the CLTD, as I mentioned earlier, the content is divided into 8 modules. There's about 950 pages that make up the reading materials. We do include within the learning system what we call a smart study tool, and that really allows you to go in and take an online pretest to determine what your strengths and weaknesses are, and you can input those results into the smart study tool, and it will guide you about how much time you should spend going through all of those 8 different diagnostic areas. So it will vary based on what your strengths and weaknesses are. As an average, what I recommend and tell people who are planning to go through the materials is to plan anywhere from 75 to 100 hours total time to go through the reading materials, the online practice questions and learning activities, and just really review and prepare for the exam. So it will vary, but that smart study tool will really help to customize their study plan and efforts. Great.
And as far as taking the exam after you've completed your training and education, as I mentioned earlier, it is highly recommended that you schedule your exam within 3 months of completing your training, because what we have seen through statistics is that individuals have a much higher success rate in passing the exam if they do that. You're not forgetting the material, you're fresh, and you're able to go into the test with a lot more confidence. And this actually gets to another question that we saw is, what do we recommend for someone who has test anxiety? We get that question a lot. And I think the first thing is preparation. Make sure you are well prepared, you know your information, because that helps a lot. The other resource that I can point people to is we actually have a test-taking tips, a document that is available on our website for download. So I encourage individuals to seek that resource out. It's a free resource, and it provides and it consolidates a lot of best practices from people who have been successful in the past in taking their exams, and what processes they use to overcome test anxiety and be prepared for test day.
And I'll just add on to that too, Lisa, if you don't mind. Within the learning system, we include an online practice exam that emulates what their experience is going to be at the testing center. So it's a great way to take a practice timed exam with the types of questions that they can see, get used to the functionality that they're going to see when they sit for the exam, to go through that so that they have a good idea before you actually go to take the real exam. Also, within the learning system, we've included an online video, and the video is done by one of our instructors, Liesl Smith, and it's about taking APICS exams with confidence. So she walks through and provides a number of different techniques for taking APICS exams successfully. So it's really helping to build that confidence and work through any test anxiety to make sure that you're ready before you go on exam day.
Those are really helpful tools, especially for those who aren't familiar with APICS type exams. Really spend some time on them, and you'll find that the exam is going to be much easier than you anticipated. Got a great question from someone who works for a supply chain organization in their logistics area. Her first thought was that CLTD would be the perfect certification, but then as they heard more about CSCP, they began to wonder which one might be better. Both seem to be applicable. Let me just address that quickly. There is some logistics material in CSCP because in order to cover the end-to-end supply chain, we have to cover all of these topics. There is a little bit of CPIM material in CSCP because, again, it has to cover the entire end-to-end supply chain. However, the CLTD and the CPIM go into much more depth in the specific topics that they cover. In the case of CLTD, all the various topics around warehousing and distribution, various types of logistics, those kind of deep topics. And in the case of CPIM, which this person didn't ask about, but in the case of CPIN, you know, how to forecast, how to plan, how to do a sales and operations plan, how to use MRP, how to schedule material out on the floor. All those things are very, very detailed for CPIM. And again, CSCP, high level, really good for directors and above, or those who would like to be one. To give you that big picture, CPIM and CLTD to dig more into the details in those specific areas. We have got a ton of great questions here.
A lot.
And I just want to remind everybody, you will get your question answered. It may not be in the next 8 minutes, but it will be in a document that we create. There's several questions about the maintenance plan and how many points and all that. Would you address that quickly, Lisa?
So once you become certified with any of our CPIM, CLTD, or CSCP certifications, we promote ongoing lifelong learning in order to stay relevant with current industry practices. And as a result, in order to keep your certification, you need to maintain your certification every 5 years through a number of, a variety of different means. And what we require is 75 maintenance points that you achieve every 5 years. And those maintenance points can be gathered through either professional ongoing education or giving back to the industry through volunteer work. And the maintenance process is actually very easy and simple, and you can easily find that on the APICS website. I'll also touch on the eligibility process as well, because we had a lot of questions about eligibility and prerequisites and bachelor's degree. So there are no prerequisites or prerequisite courses that you need to take in order to pursue your certification. And your bachelor's degree does not need to be in the field of supply chain or operations management. I encourage people to begin your process with filling out an eligibility application. It's free, it's quick, and that will begin your process as you move forward in your certification pursuit. So again, the certification eligibility application is on the APICS website, so I encourage all of you to pursue that.
Eligibility application is free and lasts forever, so
Yes.
it's a good first step for everybody. I got a question that relates to that. I would be interested in CLTD program, however, my title is Transportation Specialist. I have been in this position for over 8 years and have a BA in business. Do I still qualify even though my job title is not listed? Absolutely. The job titles we listed were examples.
Yes.
They weren't meant to be exclusive. As a transportation specialist, with 8 years experience, you would qualify. Having your BA in business would also help you qualify. And I strongly believe that the CLTD would help you validate your many years of experience, as well as learn some new techniques and tips that will help you in your job as you go forward. Another question about someone who has the ASTNL, CTL, Certified in Transportation and Logistics Certification. And the question is, do you think I need to take CLTD? Well, my first comment is that the although we're no longer offering CTL exams, it has been replaced by the CLTD. Anyone who has earned the original CTL is still certified in transportation logistics. You can find yourself or people like you on the APICS credential verification form on the APICS website. You haven't lost anything. Should you do the new one? Well, that becomes an interesting question. The new one certainly contains a lot of new and additional information that was not in the CTL. And as time goes forward and more people become CLTD certified, it will become have more demand in the marketplace. It really depends on where you are in your career and how much you think the new certification might help you as you continue to progress. Someone also asked about textbooks. When there are textbooks recommended in the exam content manual, but they certainly are not required. In fact, when we design our learning systems and other courseware, we use those references to make sure that we're covering the topics in the courseware the same way that the exam committees are covering the topics when they write exam questions. So there are a few references, for example, the Introduction to Materials Management by Tony Arnold and several other authors. Steve Chapman and Ann Gatewood are the current editors for this. This book is a real classic in the field. It's great for CPIM. It's great for CSCP. A little bit great for CLTD. There are several others, you know, that would be just great to have in your library because it's good information, it's solid information, gives you best practices. But do you need them in order to pass the exam? No. We designed the learning systems in order to utilize all that information, save you time, and really help you focus on what's really important in the exam content outline.
So there's a question here about working in the Navy for over 14 years and ordering and managing inventory. Does that cover the eligibility requirements? Absolutely, yes, it does. And you would definitely meet the experience requirements. So I recommend filling out the eligibility application today. And there's also questions about membership and how that helps individuals in pursuing or purchasing the exams. And as Bob mentioned earlier, if one is a member, and you don't have to be a member to purchase our materials or exams, but if you are a Plus member, you do get very nice discounts. Once you become certified, I recommend that you maintain your membership because, as I mentioned, in order to keep your certifications current, you need to maintain every 5 years. And becoming an APICS member offers you a variety of ways to engage with the organization, to participate in local events, to obtain our magazine and read up on industry current news. And all of those things can be directly applied to maintaining your certification. So ongoing membership is highly encouraged and will set you up for success in your maintenance program.
That's great. We're almost out of time. I'm going to answer one last question, and again, I'll emphasize that we will answer all of the questions in a Q&A document that will be posted with the recording of this webinar. But the question that I saw we really need to end with is, where can I find materials to prepare for the exam? So I'm going to encourage that you go to apics.org, apics.org. When you get to that main page, you will see certification and education drop-down. You'll open that up. You can go to any of the programs within their CPIM, CSCP, CLTD, and you will find information on those pages about how to order. You'll also find opportunities to try demos of the courseware, to get more information about each of the certifications, and so on and so forth. So apics.org, you should be able to find everything you need there. Well, that really is all the time we have for questions. Again, we will consolidate all the questions and answer them in a Q&A document that will be posted with this webinar on apics.org. You will receive an email with the link, and feel free to share this link with your colleagues or your boss or other decision makers in your company. As a reminder, this webinar is part 1 of a 4-part series. In the upcoming webinars, APICS will present a more in-depth look at each of the APICS certifications, CPIM, CSCP, and CLTD. Please share these webinars with your social networks, decision makers, or colleagues who might be interested in the APICS certifications. Thank you for attending today and for sending us your questions and comments. Your feedback helps us refine our programs to better address your needs, and we really appreciate it. Have a great day, and we hope you will be attending the next webinar in this series. All content and materials included in this online event are the property of APICS and protected by the United States and international copyright laws. All rights are reserved. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for participating.
Welcome to Which APICS Certification is Right for Me, the first in a series about the APICS certification program. Today I would like to introduce Bob Collins, APICS Senior Director of Professional Development.
Thank you, Kim. So hi everyone. As the Senior Director of Professional Development, I have responsibility for courseware and instructor development. I have over 25 years experience as a supply chain professional and was a volunteer for APICS and an instructor for many years before joining the APICS staff 10 years ago.
Bob?
Yes.
The attendees are saying they cannot hear us.
All right.
Okay, all right. Hold on a second.
We should send something to. We are working on technical difficulties. Please bear with us.
So do I again?